And greetings to my 5 subscribers. I just came across this story. I have a feeling in my bones that it is the good news that I've been waiting for. And I'm going to read it. It says, some banks try to extricate themselves from TARP trap. Here it is, Friday, March the 6th, 2009. San Francisco Market Watch, Wells Fargo's decision Friday to slash its dividend may help the bank repay its $25 billion government investment sooner. However, analysts say it will still take years, not months, for big banks to extricate themselves from the Treasury's Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP. Extricate? I thought they wanted this money. In October, the government invested more than $100 billion in the nation's 9 largest banks through TARP, with Wells Fargo getting $25 billion. Back in October, receiving TARP capital was viewed as an implicit seal of approval from the government and regulators, said David George, a bank analyst at Robert W. Baird & Company. Now it's viewed as negative. Since the first TARP money began flowing, the government has had to increase its support of CitiGroup and Bank of America, and the new administration has made it clear that other banks needing extra help will face much tougher restrictions on things like executive compensation. Even though the government has stressed it doesn't want to manage big banks' day-to-day operations, a lot of political pressure has been exerted on institutions to get them to lend more. That's made bank investors concerned about potential government lending quotas, George said. There's also the fear of the unknown, that the rules could change. The TARP rules have already changed to some extent. Lending decisions, partly based on politics rather than business, would be bad for shareholders, said Jamie Peters, an equity analyst at Morningstar. Executive compensation limits may dent the abilities of firms to hire top talent. But that's more of a concern for investment banks rather than commercial banks, she added. Still, CEOs of large commercial banks would be annoyed by the government telling them how to pay top managers, Peters said. If banks can repay the TARP money quickly, they would avoid a lot of these problems, Peters and George explained. You get the government off your back, and it would suggest you're strong enough to make it on your own, inducing confidence among investors, Peters said. George sees philosophical benefits too. Any management team that has a sense of capitalism about them would prefer not to have the government involved, he said. Wells Fargo said Friday that it will save $5 billion a year by cutting its dividend. The bank also hinted that the extra capital will help it repay the TARP investment more quickly. The U.S. Treasury's capital purchase program investment is generating a return for the U.S. taxpayer at significant cost to the company, Wells chief executive John Strumpf said in a statement. The actions we're taking every day to build our company and to strengthen our balance sheet, including the dividend and expense reductions announced today, are the right thing to do in any event for our shareholders, customers, and team members, and these actions will help us repay the government's investment at the earliest practical date, he added. Iberia Bank and TCF Financial, 2 smaller banks, have already asked for approval to repay the TARP money they got last year. Recent actions, interpretations, and commentary regarding various aspects of the program places our company at an unacceptable competitive disadvantage, Iberia Bank Chief Executive Daryl Bird said in late February. TCF Chief Executive William Cooper said the TARP rules had definitely changed since last year. TARP was originally designed to encourage healthy banks to lend more to help revive the economy, but recent actions by the Treasury and possible restrictions imposed by Congress or regulators make it look like banks took TARP money out of weakness, he explained. Bigger banks will find it much tougher to exit the program quickly, partly because they have so much more money to repay. Regulators may not let them return the government's money if that reduces their capital a lot. I don't think any big bank wants to step up and actually reduce capital levels to repay TARP. That would be very difficult to do given that we didn't know how large the ultimate losses in the banking system will be. George expects big banks like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, and U.S. Bancorp to be able to repay the government in 2 to 5 years. It's unrealistic to expect them to repay it in the near term. It's a lot to pay back, he said. Their ability to raise replacement capital is limited, given where the stocks are trading. Dividend cuts will speed up the process, but the only other way to raise enough capital right now is to earn it. Earn it. Earn it in each quarter.